300,000 people gathered at a free concert in Northern California. The Rolling Stones were on stage. Peace and love were supposed to be in the air. But in front of that stage, a circle of men in leather vests, each one bearing a grinning, winged skull, surrounded an 18-year-old fan. Seconds later, that fan lay dying on the ground, and 300 million Americans watched the footage on the evening news. The men standing over him weren't soldiers, they weren't police. They were members of a motorcycle club that had started just 21 years earlier in a dusty California town. A club built by broke, restless war veterans who had no idea they were laying the foundation for the most powerful and feared outlaw motorcycle organization in human history. This is the full story of the Hells Angels, from their founding to today. And I promise you, what you think you know is only the beginning. To understand the Hells Angels, you first have to understand America in the late 1940s. World War II was over. Millions of young men came home from Europe and the Pacific, and they were different. They had seen things, done things that civilian life simply couldn't accommodate. Some went to college on the GI Bill. Some bought houses in the suburbs and tried to forget. But others, a restless, adrenaline-starved few, couldn't sit still. The quiet life felt like a prison. They needed speed, they needed noise, they needed the open road. Motorcycle culture exploded across California almost overnight. Surplus military bikes were dirt cheap. Small clubs formed in nearly every town. Riding became a language, a way for men who had survived combat to communicate something they couldn't put into words. Then came the event that lit the fuse. July 4th, 1947. Thousands of bikers descended on the small town of Hollister, California for the annual Gypsy Tour motorcycle rally. What followed, public drinking, fistfights, racing through residential streets, was wildly exaggerated by the press. Life magazine ran a now iconic photo of a disheveled man slumped on a Harley surrounded by bottles. Historians have since confirmed much of the so-called riot was staged or overblown, but the damage was done. In the American imagination, the outlaw biker was born, dangerous, unpredictable, and free in a way ordinary citizens would never be. But less than a year later, on March 17, 1948, a man named Otto Friedli founded a new motorcycle club in Fontana, California, a rough working-class town in San Bernardino County. He called it the Hells Angels. The name wasn't random. Multiple World War II bomber squadrons and fighter units had carried the name Hells Angels on their fuselages, and Howard Hughes had immortalized it in his famous 1930 aviation film. For these veterans, the name carried the weight of war, of defiance, of men who had stared down death and come back grinning. The early Hells Angels were small, maybe a dozen guys. They rode together on weekends, got into fights, drank hard, and lived by a code that made sense only to them. But their reputation spread fast. And when the American Motorcycle Association reportedly declared that 99% of motorcyclists were law-abiding citizens, the Hells Angels and clubs like them didn't flinch at the insult. They embraced it. They became the 1%. The 1% diamond patch, still worn to this day, became more than a symbol. It was a declaration. We are not like you. We never will be, and we don't want to be. But here's what most people don't realize. The Hells Angels might have stayed a small regional California curiosity, a footnote in motorcycle history, if not for one man who walked through the door in 1957. A man who would transform this loose band of weekend riders into something the world had never seen. His name was Sonny Barger, and he was about to change everything. Ralph Hubert Sonny Barger Jr. was born in Modesto, California in 1938. His mother left him when he was just 4 months old. Raised by his father, Barger grew up hard, grew up fast, and grew up angry. He dropped out of high school at 16, lied about his age to enlist in the United States Army, got caught, and promptly discharged. By the time he was 19 years old, Barger was a full-patch Hells Angel. In 1957, he either founded or reorganized the Oakland chapter. Accounts differ, but the result was the same. Oakland became the mother chapter, the epicenter, and Sonny Barger became the most important outlaw biker in American history. What made Barger different was vision. He wasn't just a brawler, he was an organizer. He imposed structure on the chaos, mandatory weekly meetings, organized runs, strict bylaws, and above all, ironclad rules about the patch. The death head, that iconic winged skull, became sacred. You did not wear it unless the club voted you in after a grueling prospect period. You did not modify it. You did not let anyone disrespect it. And if you left the club, you gave it back. Period. By the early 1960s, the Hells Angels had chapters stretching across California, but it was March 1965 that catapulted them into national consciousness. California Attorney General Thomas Lynch released what became known as the Lynch Report, a 15-page document painting the Hells Angels as an organized criminal threat terrorizing the state. The report made front-page news coast to coast. Overnight, every American knew the name Hells Angels, and most of them were terrified. But one man saw a deeper story. Journalist Hunter S. Thompson, who would later pioneer a style called gonzo journalism, embedded himself with the Hells Angels for nearly a year, starting in 1965. He rode with them, drank with them, fought alongside them. He saw the Brotherhood up close, the loyalty, the violence, the contradiction. His 1966 book became an instant bestseller and cemented the Hells Angels in American popular culture. But Thompson's access came at a price. At a party in late 1966, a dispute escalated, and several members stomped Thompson viciously, beating him badly enough to require hospitalization. It was a brutal lesson that echoed through the decades. No matter how close an outsider got, there was always a line, and crossing it had consequences. Now here's where the story takes a turn nobody could have predicted. Throughout the 1960s and 1970s, the Hells Angels became entangled with the counterculture movement. They partied with Ken Keasley and the Merry Pranksters at his legendary acid tests. They rubbed shoulders with rock musicians, beat poets, and anti-war radicals. For a brief, surreal moment in American history, outlaw bikers and hippies found common ground. Both rejected mainstream society. Both distrusted authority. Both craved freedom. That illusion was obliterated on December 6, 1969, at the event I described at the very start of this video, the Altamont Speedway Free Festival. The Rolling Stones hired Hells Angels members as stage security. According to reports, the payment was $500 worth of beer. 300,000 fans packed a hillside with no infrastructure, no crowd control, and tension that had been building all day. As the Stones performed Under My Thumb, violence exploded. 18-year-old Meredith Hunter, a black man in the overwhelmingly white crowd, was captured on film drawing a revolver near the stage. Hells Angels member Alan Passaro lunged forward and stabbed Hunter multiple times. Meredith Hunter died within minutes. 4 people total died at Altamont that day. Passaro was later tried for murder. The jury acquitted him on self-defense. The film clearly showed Hunter had pulled a gun, but public opinion needed no trial.
Altamont became the symbolic funeral of the 1960s peace movement, and the Hells Angels were branded its gravediggers. Now here's the thing most people miss. While America was busy debating the death of flower power, the Hells Angels were quietly evolving into something far more sophisticated and far more dangerous. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, the club expanded internationally at breathtaking speed.
A chapter in Auckland, New Zealand had been established as early as 1961. London followed in 1969. By the mid-1980s, the Hells Angels had planted flags in Canada, Australia, Germany, France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Denmark, and beyond. What had started as a handful of riders in Fontana was now a truly global organization with a hierarchical command structure that law enforcement compared to the mafia. And with global reach came global revenue. The DEA and FBI documented the Hells Angels' deep entrenchment in the methamphetamine trade, particularly across the American West and Western Canada. The club was also linked to cocaine distribution, weapons trafficking, extortion, money laundering, and prostitution rings. RICO, the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, became law enforcement's weapon of choice against the club. The same statute designed to dismantle the Italian-American mafia was now being aimed squarely at the death head. The club's official response never wavered. "We are a motorcycle club, not a gang, not a criminal enterprise. Any illegal activity committed by individual members is their personal responsibility, not the club's." Law enforcement didn't agree, and the consequences of the Hells Angels' expansion were about to turn catastrophic. In 1994, the Great Nordic Biker War erupted between the Hells Angels and the Bandidos MC across Scandinavia. Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and Finland became war zones. Car bombs detonated in residential neighborhoods. Shootings happened in broad daylight. And in one incident that stunned the world, an anti-tank rocket was fired at a Hells Angels clubhouse in Copenhagen. Over 3 years, 11 people were killed and at least 74 wounded before a shaky ceasefire was negotiated in 1997. Simultaneously, across the Atlantic, an even deadlier war was raging. The Quebec Biker War, fought between the Hells Angels and the Rock Machine from 1994 to 2002, turned the streets of Montreal into a battlefield. More than 150 people were murdered. Hundreds of bombings shattered windows and lives. But the moment that changed history came on August 9, 1995, when a car bomb intended for a drug rival detonated on a residential Montreal street and killed 11-year-old Daniel Desrochers, who had been playing outside. The death of a child ignited a firestorm of public outrage. Canada passed sweeping anti-gang legislation, and in the spring of 2001, Operation Printemps, Operation Spring, saw police arrest more than 120 Hells Angels members and associates in a single coordinated dawn raid. The club's Quebec leadership was gutted overnight. Maurice "Mom" Boucher, the feared president of the Montreal chapter, was convicted of ordering the murders of 2 prison guards and sentenced to life without parole for 25 years. And the violence wasn't contained to Canada. On April 27, 2002, a brawl between the Hells Angels and the Mongols MC inside Harrah's Casino in Laughlin, Nevada, erupted into a full-blown knife and gun fight on the casino floor in front of terrified tourists. 3 men were killed, 2 Hells Angels and 1 Mongol, and more than a dozen others were seriously injured. Surveillance footage captured the entire bloody melee. Through all of this, Sonny Barger remained the gravitational center.
He had served roughly 4 years in federal prison after a 1988 conviction on conspiracy charges. After his release, he relocated to Cave Creek, Arizona, and embarked on an astonishing second act. He published his autobiography, Hell's Angel, in 2000. He started legitimate businesses. He appeared on television shows. He became, in perhaps the strangest twist of this entire story, a best-selling author and mainstream celebrity. But even as Barger was signing books and giving interviews, the club he built was being infiltrated, surveilled, and prosecuted around the world. The 2000s and 2010s brought a new era for the Hells Angels, one defined by a relentless war of attrition between law enforcement and a club that refused to disappear. In the United States, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives launched Operation Black Biscuit in 2003, placing deep cover agents inside the Hells Angels for years. The operation produced explosive evidence and led to multiple arrests and convictions. It was followed by operations targeting chapters from coast to coast, each one peeling back another layer of what the feds called an ongoing criminal enterprise. Internationally, the pressure was even more intense. Germany banned multiple Hells Angels chapters outright, seizing property and criminalizing membership. The Netherlands conducted sweeping raids. Australia passed controversial anti-association laws designed specifically to dismantle outlaw motorcycle clubs, legislation so broad that civil liberties organizations warned it threatened the rights of ordinary citizens. But the Hells Angels adapted. They always adapted. The club became more media conscious, more legally sophisticated. Some chapters organized charity rides and community events, raising money for veterans organizations and children's hospitals. They built websites, they registered trademarks, they hired lawyers who were every bit as aggressive as the prosecutors coming after them. The message remained consistent. We are a brotherhood of motorcycle enthusiasts. We ride, we support each other, that's it. Law enforcement told a stark different story. According to the FBI and Europol, the Hells Angels remained one of the so-called Big Four outlaw motorcycle organizations, alongside the Banditos, the Outlaws, and the Pagans. Investigations continued across multiple continents. Indictments kept coming. The tension between the club's public image and its law enforcement profile became one of the defining narratives of modern organized crime. Then came June 29, 2022. Sonny Barger, the man who had shaped the Hells Angels more than any other human being, died at the age of 83 after a battle with liver cancer. His final message, posted on social media after his passing, read, "If you are reading this message, you'll know that I'm gone. I've asked that this note be released after my passing. Keep your head high up, stay loyal, remain free, and always value honor." The reaction was immediate and global. Thousands of riders, Hells Angels, and members of other clubs alike organized tribute rides across multiple countries. News outlets on every continent ran obituaries. Whatever you thought of Sonny Barger, one fact was undeniable. He had been the most recognizable outlaw biker on the planet for 65 years. Today, in 2024, the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club operates chapters in over 60 countries with an estimated 3,600 full-patch members worldwide. They are, by every measure, the most recognized motorcycle club on Earth. Their death head logo is among the most aggressively trademarked symbols in existence. Their influence on motorcycle culture, criminal justice policy, and popular culture is immeasurable. And the debate that has raged since 1948, are they a club or a criminal organization, continues with no resolution in sight. 76 years. From a handful of restless veterans in a dusty California town to a global organization spanning 6 continents. The story of the Hells Angels is, at its core, the story of men who refused to be tamed, who built a brotherhood on loyalty, defiance, and a two-wheeled machine that gave them the only peace they ever knew. Whether you see them as outlaws or outcasts, criminals or countercultural icons, one thing is beyond debate. No motorcycle club in history has had a greater impact on laws, on policing, and on popular culture and the very meaning of the word brotherhood. They didn't just ride through American history, they carved a lane through it, and the road they left behind changed everything that came after. As long as there are highways stretching into the distance, as long as there are men and women who feel more alive at 80 miles an hour than they ever do standing still, the story of the Hells Angels is far from over. So here's my question for you. Are the Hells Angels a dying breed, or are they more powerful in 2024 than they've ever been? Drop your answer below. I'll respond to every comment in the first hour. If this story gripped you, hit that subscribe button. We go deep on the real stories behind motorcycle club history every Tuesday and Friday. And trust me, the next one is something you absolutely do not want to miss. I'll see you on the road.